Well, as you can see here, I've just been having a look at the MAF sensor and the main air intake, and this particulate filter is completely destroyed, and there's definitely some residue within the pipework there, so this filter's been damaged for quite a while. So I'm really pleased I've spotted this, as the van has a bit of a lack of power as you're accelerating. The turbo takes a couple of seconds to build up power. This won't be helping things. I need to clean the MAF sensor and see if I get any different codes coming up. At the moment I've got a check emissions code and check injection as well. So possibly changing this sensor could sort it, but I'm going to clean it first and change this filter out. Then I know I've got clean air with the proper pressure coming through the system. So there's quite a bit of grime and dirt in the bottom of this airbox here. I'm just going to get the hoover and vacuum out all the crud that I can. So I'm just having a little look at the front end of this van, and at a quick glance it looks alright, but when you get in there and have a real good look, you can see this panel underneath the windscreen trim is all rusted and is actually blown out in the corner here, and all the way along could do with a bit of work, but this panel does look to be bolted in place. So I'm going to do my best to remove the whole panel. So to remove this panel, there's 4 plastic nuts and 2 little panel clips that are tucked away underneath this plastic trim here. And obviously you've got to take the wipers off, and then this trim should just lift off and give us access to the metal panel underneath. So with that plastic trim now removed, we've got good access to this panel. As you can see, the rest of the bodywork of the van is definitely galvanised and hasn't had a chance to rust, but for some reason this front panel here just doesn't look to be like it's ever been galvanised, which is very odd, as this is a point of the van that's surely going to be known to have a lot of water, and it protects the engine from water ingress. So I need to get this panel removed, and then it can be stripped, any patchwork can be done, and then it can all be repainted and put back on. Then I know this panel's right, and I can clean out all the gutters inside the above the firewall there. There's a proper drain point there. I'll put a little bit of sealant around that so there's no water getting around the edge of it and dripping down into the engine bay. And then that's just future proofing the van for another few years before this gets any worse. So I've now got that panel removed, and I'm pretty pleased to say that the main body of the van that it was secured to is still in good order, and the paintwork still seems to be intact. That little bit of surface rust in there is actually just off the other panel, but as you can see here, the drain pipe there, it's got quite a bit of crud around it, and all that sitting in there, rotten leaves and debris. It's not going to do any good to the panel work, so I'll do my best to clean that out. And on this side here, it has a similar drain, but the drain is currently covered with loads of crap, so no water would have even been getting out of there, and it will have just been sitting. So I'm pleased to have got in this far and get this sorted before we get the rest of the van fettled. So I was lucky enough to be able to find a replacement panel here from a vehicle breakers, and this is what's classed as a windscreen scuttle panel. So I'm pleased to have this. As you can see, the original panel is completely rusted through there and not really worth trying to repair. So I'm just back out on the front of the van here. Got the replacement windscreen scuttle panel here, and I've cleaned out all of the ducket area underneath, the scuttle area underneath the windscreen there. As you can see, I've installed a new rubber gasket to aid in keeping the water from tracking in and into the engine. It's got some foam on the original piece here, but as you can imagine, this piece has been fitted. It's a second-hand part, so the gasket will be squashed, so I've put a new one on to get past any issues with that. So I'm going to get this panel installed now. So I've now got this replacement scuttle panel installed, and as you can see here, it's in much better condition and shouldn't cause any problem for me for the next couple of years, that's for sure. Just get the wipers back on, and then that's this little repair done, and get back on to the rear of the van. So I'm just taking a look at the bonnet latch here. The latch itself is pretty slow, and this original spring just doesn't pop the bonnet up anymore, so it's quite difficult to get opened. So I'm going to change this out for a replacement mechanism, and hopefully that should solve my problems. So I'm just showing you a look at the top of this sliding door here. As you can see, we've got a little bit of a gap above the doorway, and the door itself just doesn't quite pull in as far as it should at the top here, and there's no latch that catches the top of the door to pull it in. It's just relying on the middle roller. So I'm going to put a gutter strip along the top here just to push any rain away from the doorway and to the back or to the front of the van, depending on which way you're parked. So here's a little shot of the gutter strip I've stuck above the sliding door there. That's just going to catch any runoff from the roof and push it away from the opening of the sliding door. Just got another delivery of 20 more sound deadening mats from Dodo Mat, and I'm just finishing off the last couple of panels here to then be able to put the sound deadening closed cell foam over the surface and the recycled plastic insulation filling the cavity there. So I've managed to get the closed cell foam all stuck onto the side walls there and all taped over all the joins, so the bed area is now completely sealed up, ready for the plywood panels to go on for the garage area beneath the bed, and I'll then carpet those sections where the bed's going to be. So I'm now just moving on to the roof here, using up the last bits of sound deadening that I've got from the 3 packs I've had. I think I've had 90 of these sheets in total, so probably a little bit overkill, but it's quite a big space to work with, so tried to fill all the rattling panels that I could. And I've just marked out where the skylight's going to go above the bed area, so I can then get my insulation stuck over this sound deadening and have a bit of a guide as to where I can insulate to before I cut the skylight hole. Another hole cut out for a skylight in the shower area, so that's going to do as a bit of a vent, which will be great to have in the bathroom. keep the moisture contained in there so it's not pulling out of the bathroom into the main living area. So I've now got the majority of the roof panels now insulated with the 10mm closed cell foam adhesive insulation. So here's a shot of the skylight just sitting on the roof there. It's just a 350 by 350 opening, 400 squared cut out to be made in the roof there. And as you can see, I've just kept it back here from where the gutter lands, just to make sure that the outer flange here is sitting on a nice flat surface for the majority of this edge here. So I've just got a few bits of PVC soffit trim here, cut down in depth to 45mm and cut to length to fill out all the troughs within the roof space around the skylight. And I'm just going to put a little chamfer on the edge of these pieces at a 45 degree using this belt sander here, just to help them sit into the troughs nicely and create a better seal with the mastic tape. So I've now got these pieces of PVC trim cut and sanded to size with a nice 45 degree bevel on each end, just to sit nicely in between the low troughs. And where these gutter sections run, I've got another piece beneath and another piece over there as well, just to make sure that the mastic's got a good level to stick to. Then I can run a full layer of mastic tape, nice and level, to sit the skylight into. So I've now got these PVC trims stuck in place and just used those to help guide the jigsaw around the opening. And I've just cut that opening out there. Just going to run a little bit of red oxide primer around the edges here, and then I can get a strip of mastic tape all around this nice flush layer here and get the skylight sat in place. So we have a skylight. It's in place. I've test fitting it there. So I've just been making up this little frame here. As you can see, it's just needed a little bit of shaping on the sander there to get it to fit into the roof properly. And I've done a few cutouts for where the troughs in the roof protrude down. I'll just get this pushed up in place. You can see there, that fits quite nicely around the skylight, and where those cutouts are, I'll be able to just bond this frame in place, and then it's going to give me something to get a good fixing down through the roof to hold the skylight in place. Just see that there, the cutout, and I'll fully bond all this in place and then screw through from above, and that's going to make the skylight and the roof nice and solid and take away any flex that's been created by cutting out this square. So I've just been brushing on a little bit of red oxide primer there, just to make sure that all the cut edges are protected. Happy with that. Ready to glue the frame on the inside and mastic the window on from the outside, and then screw through into the frame. So I've just got this trim framework here all bonded up, ready to be stuck in place, just using some 522, and got a little plasterboard prop here ready to prop it up from below against the roof, and then I can go and work from the outside and get a couple of screws in to really nip it up against the roof evenly, and then we should be watertight. So I've got this skylight prepped with the mastic tape now stuck all the way around the edges and pressed down nicely onto the skylight itself, and then I've peeled the tape off, ready to lift it into place into the framework in the roof that's already squared up with the van. So I'm pleased to say we're working late into the night here, but I've managed to get this skylight installed and got it all sealed around with the mastic tape and the Sikaflex along the front here. When the light comes back tomorrow morning, I'll run the rest of the sealant all the way around and do all the screw heads as well, just to be extra belt and braces, make sure it's not going to get any leaks from anywhere. But I'm really pleased with the position of that. We'll have a look on the inside and see what it looks like in the shower area. It's just a little shot from the inside. Now the framework's all bonded and screwed in place. Really pleased with that. I'm trying to get a better shot of it. Really happy with the position of that. It's going to give us a nice skylight slash vent into the shower slash bathroom area. Plenty of airflow, plenty of sunlight. It's going to be good. Alright then guys, so as you can see here, we've got another skylight to install at the rear of the van here, and I've got the skylight unboxed, just having a look at the fixing kit for this brand of skylight. So I've got this framework glued and screwed together now. This is just made out of pressure treated lat, and as you can see here, I've just routed a small recess along the side here, which is going to be the front edge, just to allow these two layers of steel to sit nicely within the recess, so I can get this lat pressed as tight as I can to the roof at either side. And then obviously there's a slight arch in the roof, so in the middle there's going to be a little bit of a gap between the battens, so I'll just have to bond that up, and that should be totally sufficient with it being so close to a support rib. So I'm going to move outside and get this hole started. Right then guys, so I've managed to get this all marked up and cut out. As you can see there, I've just got some duct tape holding the panel in place. Just going to peel that off and reveal the opening. There we have it. That's certainly a hole. The question is, does the skylight fit through the hole? So I've got the skylight here prepped with the 35mm wide mastic tape and then all around the opening here it's got plastic trim around the edges, mastic running up the front edge there, and it's ready for the window to sit in place and then be clamped to the frame. I've just pumped sealant into all the gaps along there, make sure everything's sealed up before I actually stick the window in place. So I've just got the frame all secured in place there with the plastic mounting brackets that came with the window. I just had to use a little bit of duct tape between the roof strut and the window just to hold the frame in place while I got those brackets secured. Now the screws that have came with the window are these little button head stainless steel screws, but they actually aren't long enough for the way I've got this frame built, so I've had to use some 40mm standard turbo gold screws there. But that's worked a treat. We'll have a wander up and I'll show you what it's like on the top. So there we go, that's a shot of the window from above, and you can see where I've got me plastic trims just like I did on the smaller skylight at the front there, just filling in the low points on these troughs, so they're all mastic taped in place, and then the window itself is mastic taped as well. And then once I get some better sunlight tomorrow, as it's getting quite late now and I've lost the sun, I will continue with the Sikaflex and just give it the belt and braces on top of the mastic tape that's there, just to make sure that there's no water pushing in there whilst I'm driving. So I'm really pleased with how that's gone on the roof, as there's a bit of an arch to the roof, so you've got to kind of sequentially clamp the window frame all the way around to get it to marry up nicely, but that's looking great.